The following program is sponsored by the Building Wisconsin Television Network.
Welcome to Building Wisconsin. I'm Stuart Keith, and on today's show, well, we're learning more about solar energy at the new solar farm in Wood County, Wisconsin. So let's get started with Matt Brenner. Well, Matt, really appreciate you coming on Building Wisconsin today, and by the looks of this job site, it looks like it's pretty massive in scale. What are we looking at?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Stu. We're looking at roughly 1,200 acres of solar field that's coming down for renewable energies for Alliant.
Wow, 1,200 acres, that sounds huge. That's almost 2 square miles of solar panels out here?
Yes. So roughly, it's I think 388,000 panels are going to be put across this field here.
Holy cow! Well, we want to start using more renewable energy, get us off fossil fuels, and this is a great example. Now, you're with AZCO. AZCO's in charge of this project. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so AZCO, we're owned by Burns & McDonald. We are EPC engineer, provide, construct, and AZCO is the actual one Burns & McDonald brought out here to construct the project. AZCO is just getting mobilized on the job site up here. We're bringing in a lot of tools, all of our equipment to start getting things rolling. As you can see, our subcontractor Mashuda is out here starting to grub all the ground, get all the stumps removed, and get the area prepared for us to start installing panels.
Okay, and you're the site supervisor, right?
Yeah, I'm the site supervisor. We'll be looking over the actual install of the solar panels and the underground electrical work, as well as the electrical work above ground going into the switch stations. So my day-to-day duties involve site coordination. We're hiring the manpower that we need to construct this job, making sure all the trucks and material and things like that are on the site when we need them to install.
Okay, so as a site supervisor, is it fair to say you're really overseeing all the different trades that are involved? And as I understand it, there's quite a few trades involved in a solar farm.
Yeah, so AZCO is hiring on this job site 4 different trades, laborers, operators, carpenters, and electricians. And then obviously Mashuda, they have their own operators as well.
Okay, sounds pretty complex. I mean, you have to take care of the coordination between all those trades. And on today's show, we want to learn more about the role the operating engineers are playing on these solar projects. And once the construction starts, it looks like the operating engineers are the first ones on site?
Yeah, they're really going to be the first and the last. They'll be here for tools on site, getting the site prepared, as well as the ones here loading our tools out and getting us off site. So they're absolutely key to making sure this ground is ready, as well as going through the process for us for doing the piles and the module installs and keeping the things flowing for when we need to actually put the material on the job site. As you can see, this is construction work area number 1. There's 6 total as we go around the job site. So we're preparing construction work area number 1 for our crews to get in and start doing panel installs.
Whoa, I thought this was the entire 1,200 acres. So
No.
This is only one portion of the entire solar farm?
That is right.
And what you said there is the operating engineers come in and they clear any of the overburden here and prep the site and then move on to the next section. Is that so that it allows the installation to begin more efficiently?
Yeah, so it's kind of a flow, we're getting them preparing this section so they can work on that one as we're starting to install. It just helps with schedule, timing, and try to get things done on time for us.
Well, again, back to the operating engineers, I look at how many are out here and the massive equipment, and I just marvel at how skilled these operators are. How important to the success of a project like this in AZCO's mind are the operating engineers and the training they get back at Coloma?
Yeah, so it's absolutely key. I know we're going to be training the guys on site. There's going to be people coming here doing things they haven't done before, with renewable energy being somewhat new to the industry. So having a team with the Coloma shop as well on site. It's very important that we're training these people, getting them involved from a GPS standpoint, because that is what a lot of their equipment is running on. That's what's getting them down to the precise level and grading that we need out on this project.
And that's really important when you're talking solar farms?
It's important from a standpoint of not only just being level from the ground, but as well as getting all of our piles and our actual solar panel modules installed in the right location, all by GPS, all by our operating engineers.
Because there's going to be thousands of those installed?
74,000 piles to install on this job site. So we have to be exact with where we're placing every one of those, and that's all with GPS.
What a great example of how the industry continues to evolve, not only in the equipment, but in the specialized training, so that you get the best possible end result that all of us in the state are going to enjoy when all this power, 150 megawatts, is tied into the grid, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, how long until it's completed?
We'll be done about a year from now, so we'll be working through the winter, a lot of above ground stuff, but yeah, it's going to be about a 12-month project.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I'll let you get back to work, and we'll catch up with you again in the future.
All right, thanks a lot, Stu.
Holy cow, Matt, look at the size of these tires.
Yeah, what you're looking at here, Stu, is this is a $9,000 tire, and it is mounted on a 627 motor scraper, which has a value of around $1 million.
$9,000 for a tire, and as I look, there's 4 massive tires on here. What's the life expectancy of one of these?
Well, these tires, it really depends on the material you're running in, of course. You know, out here on the site we're on, it's primarily sand. So you'll probably get your best wear in a tire in sand country. So if you're working in rocky material, things of that nature, these tires they can be destroyed less than 50% of their life.
Oh my gosh, I know as the owner, operator, you definitely don't want to see tires getting worn down prematurely. I remember when we had your dad on the show, he was talking about how you don't want them to spin out of control, that's for sure.
That is correct. You know, if they're spinning, you hit a rock or some sort of other obstruction, they will cut these tires. They're made for this industry, but they still can get beat up pretty easily out here.
Oh yeah, and as I look at this 627, is this considered a big scraper? I mean, it looks massive to me.
Yeah, it would be a medium-sized scraper.
Medium-sized,
yeah.
so they can make them a lot bigger than this?
Yes,
and,
they do.
Earlier talking to Matt, he was saying the importance of GPS on the equipment nowadays. Does this have GPS?
Yes, this machine is equipped with GPS, which is wonderful on a site like the one we're on here. We're on over 1,100 acres, and there is very skinny grading in a lot of these areas. So when we skinny is very shallow. So having the capabilities of the GPS is wonderful for a project like this.
I just love to see the evolution of an industry and the highly skilled professionals that operate these. I mean, if I'm an operating engineer, that's my goal, to get in a brand new piece of equipment like this. And I know at your company, Mashuda Contractors, you guys have made a huge investment into the different equipment. And what I'd like to share with the viewing public is a little bit about the history of Mashuda, because you're a family-owned company based out of Little Princeton, Wisconsin, right?
That's correct. I'm 4th generation within our business. We started in the late 1920s around Wisconsin here. My great-grandfather and 4 of his brothers essentially started the company, and we started in the highway work, have evolved to be able to do a little bit more work than just highway work.
You're in heavy highway. What prompted you guys to get into solar?
Well, the heavy highway work, more and more today, there's a lot of reconstruct work. So you're reconstructing old highways. You know, we used to be bypassing towns and, you know, building new highways of that nature. And we're big excavation guys. And there's a little less and less work in that highway end of things anymore. So
There's a logical progression.
It was a logical progression to do this. We like wide open areas, and that's exactly what we have in this job here.
Okay, awesome. Well, speaking of this job, take us through what your operating engineers are up to.
So we're doing all the civil work on the project. So that goes from stump removal, clearing and grubbing. We're removing topsoil, grading out the hills that are out here to create a level surface for these panels to sit on, and then replacing the topsoil, seeding, and basically finish work.
So again, as Matt alluded to, you're the first on site and the last ones to leave. Now, how challenging is this project?
I would say the grading work is our forte, so that is right in our wheelhouse. But the big part of it is when we started here, this was a pine plantation, and there were over 1 million stumps that we have to remove on site here.
And being a pine plantation, probably for the pulping industry, they're not that big. I mean, they're what, 8, 12 inches in diameter?
Yep, right in that range. You bet.
1 million of them.
So there's around 1 million stumps out here that had to be removed. So that would have to be one of the most challenging aspects. Is the fast pace of this project is getting those stumps removed, getting them to the chipper, getting them chipped, and then hauled to the biomass facility is a big part of the initial work, so that we can follow through with our grading operations and stay on schedule here.
Did that take a special piece of equipment?
Yes, so we acquired 2 special pieces of equipment, one a stump puller and one a rotary rake that are pulled behind a dozer, and one is pulled behind a tractor. So we extract the stumps out of the ground. They're all planted in a row, so it works pretty nice that way, that we go down the row, extract the stumps, and then we rake them into a windrow, where we later will pick them up, haul them to a localized spot out here on site, and grind them, haul them off.
And that's what I love about it. All this is being recycled. Ultimately, yeah, a solar farm is using renewable resources, but you guys aren't just burning anything out here. You're actually trying to utilize every aspect of everything that you're removing here to benefit our communities.
Correct. And that was a big part of the project, that things were reused. So all the pines that were able to be turned into lumber out on the project prior to us getting in here were logged. They were, sent into the proper places that way. And what was left is only usable to burn in a biomass facility or something along those lines. So we were able to pull them, grind them, and make this all work, which is great.
Well, and I always marvel when I see this massive equipment, but especially the highly trained operating engineers that run all this equipment. How important is the partnership Mashuda has with Local 139, the operating engineers?
Well, it's very, very important. A project, well, really any project that we do, without that partnership, it would be almost impossible to get these projects done. If we had to go hire people off the street and do this work, these $9,000 tires would be destroyed within a week. So very important that the training, not only at the Coloma Training Center, but also here on site, that the operating engineers provides us is very key to the success of a project like this.
Well, it makes sense. It seems like the operating engineers are really an extension of your company.
They really are.
Okay, so you said on-site training. Is there some specialized training that's needed for a solar farm?
Definitely. For us, the stump puller, some of this new stuff was definitely a little more specialized than what we're used to. So there's a little more specialized training there. Also on the safety aspect, which is number one, of course, on site, OSHA training, things of that nature, was really very key to this project.
Well, and you want everybody to go home safely at night, right?
That is
and then,
correct.
as I understand it, there's some specialized piles that need to be driven, and they have to be installed correctly, obviously, because the precision is key, not only on the massive equipment, but at the height of all these panels, right?
Correct. That training with pile drivers, they're equipped with GPS as well, which is very key to this whole operation. If a pile is driven to a wrong elevation, those panels are to operate following the sun throughout the day. So they will move as the sunlight goes across the sky. And if a pile is at the wrong elevation, they may hit the ground and not function properly.
And again, it all comes back to having a highly trained, highly skilled workforce, all the training done at Coloma or even on site when need be, so that you as the contractor can really rest assured that you have the right professionals here doing the work.
That's correct.
Okay, well, you're going to be here, for another 18 months doing this project?
Yep, it should finish up probably mid-summer this next summer here.
Well, Matt, great to catch up with you. Thanks for coming on Building Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Hard work, sweat, knowledge in your own 2 hands. These are the tools that build Wisconsin. Leave your mark on the real world with zero debt and higher pay. All from day one. It's time to do work that works for you. Learn more at buildingwisconsintogether.com.
Well, Terry, beautiful day out here at the solar farm, and you know, it's been a couple of months since we last visited it. What a change. Your guys have really been busy.
They have been busy, Stu. They're putting in the posts right now that are going to hold the racks, which in turn are going to hold the modules.
And when we talk about putting in posts, they're making short work of the process with that machine over there.
That is the PD-10. That's the very same piece of equipment that we bought for our school so that we can train the operators that are putting these posts in the ground.
And you know, earlier in the show, I was talking to Matt Mashuda, and he was talking about the partnership and how important it is between his company as a signatory contractor and Local 139. He essentially said it'd be impossible to do a project like this without the highly skilled workforce that you're providing. And he was talking about the training at Coloma, but not only there, but you actually bring instructors out on site if need be.
That's right, Stu, because we're trying to make a very conscious effort to hire local people so that we're hiring ratepayers from this area. Stu, and you know what? All the credit to the general contractor, AZCO Hennes, Burns McDonald, and also to the Alliant Energy crew that asked to make sure they're local people. So we bring them in, and we have an instructor available so that we can teach them the craft of driving these posts and driving them right.
So when we talk about the importance of renewable energy, and in this case, the Wood County Solar Farm, one of the big benefits that might get overlooked by people outside of Wood County is that you're hiring local?
We're hiring local, not just for the earth moving and the grubbing, but also for the fences that you see being put in there by highway landscapers. So this is all a very conscious effort to dispatch people from the local area, Wisconsin ratepayers.
Well, that's great because we want to keep Wisconsin money here. We have a highly skilled, highly trained workforce. Why not utilize everybody that lives right here locally?
And that keeps the community behind a project like this, too.
Okay, to the training aspect and the installation of these piles. Earlier in the show, we learned that in order to build a solar farm, there is a lot of specialized training, from the stump pulling that goes in right down to these piles in the background. Take us through what they're doing here.
Well, right now they're putting in posts, Stu, and what they're going to do is put a bifacial solar panel in, otherwise called a module. Three major components that we are installing: the module, the racks, and the inverters. What a lot of people don't know is that these modules actually produce DC electricity. They then go to the inverter then transfers it into an AC current.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. And your members really need to be well versed in many different aspects of solar.
And everybody has their specialties too. We're working side by side right now with the carpenters and driving these posts, but we're also working as a composite crew, getting in the trenches with the electrical workers that are going to be hooking up all the grid and the inverters, the conduit, and ultimately all the wires.
It's amazing how fast this whole project comes together. I mean, a couple months ago, they were just pulling stumps from this area. Now there looks like ryegrass growing up here. It looks just beautiful, and there are literally thousands of these posts involved in this project.
Approximately 70,000 posts.
70,000?
70,000.
Wow, that's great to hear. And you know, back to the workers here on site driving the piles, what is the specific role of the operator there? It looks like a pretty intense piece of machinery.
Well, yes, it really is, and it's actually GPS guided. Drive approximately 7 to 8 feet of that post into the ground. Typically, a pile buck would have to keep a level on any post that you're driving into the ground to make sure that it's true, level both ways. This GPS system does all that work for them by itself, and that way we're able to get optimum amount of posts in the ground by the end of the day.
You know, that speaks volumes to the training that goes on at Coloma, and not only at Coloma, but also out on site you'll bring an instructor if need be.
Yes, and you can see just by the way the site turned out through the grading, the grubbing, the fencing that's going up by highway landscapers, everything being done is being done by well-trained people, and the well-training comes from Coloma.
It's not just moving dirt these days. If you're an operating engineer, it's a pretty diverse field, it sounds like.
It is. In fact, we made an investment. We bought one of these PD-10s. We have one at our school so that we can take some of our younger operators and teach them how to run these. We actually have two different types of GPSs mounted on ours. We have both the Stone X, which is what is being used here, and we have a Trimble on the other side of the mast, so they can switch back and forth and get acclimated to whatever GPS system is being used.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And you know, when we're talking about different disciplines within the operating engineers, I saw Ken out here from your training center running a drone. Is that a discipline, drone operation within operating engineers?
We are going to be training, and we are going to be certifying drone operators at our school this year, and that's a course that's going to be made available to our members. The technology that we have to keep up with right now is more of a reason for our members to continue to come and upgrade at our school. I mean, you're talking about GPS, you're talking about drones. The technology of our industry keeps advancing because this drone operation is getting more and more meticulous. We can actually do line and grade elevations with these things. We can do complete topographicals. The things that drones can do right now are just incredible.
You know, Ken even told me that they can actually take thousands of pictures, stitch them together, they can overlay it on Google Earth. There's just so many different aspects and benefits to drone operation. And again, the advancement of the industry. What's that mean? A better quality of life for all of us here in the state. Because all these projects, large or small, they use the latest technology. It's going to mean a better end result, and everybody benefits from that.
Everybody benefits. You have clean energy, you have efficient energy, and the Wisconsin residents are going to be happy.
Well, Terry, I appreciate you coming on today's show. We'll catch up with you again soon.
All right, Stu, thank you.
Well, Tim, I really appreciate you coming on Building Wisconsin today. And throughout today's show, we've been learning about the construction process of this new Wood County solar farm. And we wanted to catch up with you to learn more about solar energy in general and then the benefits to these projects. But before we get into all that, tell us what you think of this project.
We're off to a great start here. This site had about 1,000 acres of trees. We've been able to harvest those sustainably. We've completed most, if not all, of the civil work, and now we're into pile driving, which is the foundation of the solar system.
Sure, so on top of these piles there actually be the big panels that we can all relate to.
Yep, first is racking and then the panels.
Okay.
So I think we're about 20% done on piles at this point, and I know you learned a little bit more about the pile driving process earlier. So
yeah, that was pretty amazing with Terry McGowan with the operating engineers. And you know, throughout today's show, that's what we've been focusing on, the role of the operating engineers on this project. And it seems to me they're involved in virtually every aspect of it. And I was curious from Alliant's standpoint, how critical are they to the success of a project like this?
The operating engineers are absolutely critical to a project like this. Couldn't do it without them. They form the foundation of much of the work, and we're really excited to partner with them.
And a lot of them are local operating engineers.
Yeah, that's right, Stu. We are really excited that we have a lot of local contractor as well as a local labor force. That's really important to us.
Sure, and when we talk about benefits to solar, a lot of people might overlook that aspect, but the construction process, that really benefits the local community, doesn't it?
Absolutely does. There's about 200 folks here working. They need a place to sleep, a place to eat, and places to fill up their cars. We have local suppliers benefiting the local establishments here.
And not to mention the local operating engineers that are being hired through the local 139 to do the work on the project. So yeah, that's
Absolutely.
A great benefit that shouldn't be overlooked.
That's correct.
And you know, when I was preparing for the show, I was looking at the Alliant site and I was impressed. Alliant seems really committed to making the transition to renewable energy.
That's right. We have a clean energy blueprint that we're working from that forms our script for what we're doing. We're committed to transitioning our fossil units and moving to sustainable energy. We have committed to being net zero from a carbon perspective from the energy we produce by 2050.
How many of these large solar farms do you guys have or have in the works?
We have 12 of these types of farms all in the works that vary from 50 megawatts to 200 megawatts. And this is 150, so it's on the larger end of that. 3 of those projects are currently in the construction phase. 3 more will be starting up in the next couple of months. And then we have 6 in front of the commission that we hope to start next spring.
Wow, so collectively, how many homes is all this solar energy going to be able to power?
So all those solar installations I talked about are about 1,100 megawatts, and that's enough to power about 300,000 average homes.
Whoa, $300,000. So when we talk about making the transition away from fossil fuels, this is real world. This is really the way to make it happen.
Critical to it.
And it's not just large solar farms. You guys are also, I read on the website, actively installing and testing solar energy in smaller urban settings as well.
Yeah, that's right, Stu. We are partnering with local communities as well as local businesses throughout our service territory to help them meet their solar goals, to help them meet their sustainability goals.
Now, I know one of the questions out there is who pays for this? How is a project of this magnitude funded?
A project like this is a standard utility project, so Alliant Energy will pay the capital costs up front, and then we'll put the project into our rate base, and our customers will pay for the project over the life cycle of the project, which is about 30 years.
Oh, well, that's cool. I mean, I'm a customer of Alliant Energy, and that makes sense to me. I mean, rather than having to foot the bill for the entire project up front, you're not unlike a mortgage, spreading it out over time so it makes it more affordable, probably more stable prices through the life of this system.
That's exactly right. This investment is a great investment for our customers. The long-term utilization of a facility like this, we've shown to be a benefit to our customers. It has free energy from the sun being utilized, as well as very low operating costs on a day-to-day basis once it's up and running.
That's awesome to hear. Okay, let's get to the brass tacks here. How does solar energy work? How do we harness that energy from the sun?
A solar panel is a silicon wafer covered with glass. So the sun's power hits the silicon wafer, and that causes electrons to get excited and move down the wire. They move down the wire to what's called an inverter, and that inverter changes that direct current to alternating current, and that's the kind of power that you and I use in our homes and businesses use. From there, it moves on to the substation, and from the substation, it joins all the other panels to the grid.
Okay, so whether it's this solar farm or any of them throughout our state, all the power that's being generated here ultimately joins the grid, which ultimately benefits anybody using it throughout our state.
That's right. Yeah,
That is
it goes to where the demand is.
Okay, so just quickly, some of the other benefits to solar.
Well, we hit on some of the local ones. Also, we have revenue sharing from a unit like this. So the local county as well as the local town will benefit for the life of the installation with annual payments. And the environmental benefits of a solar project like this are many. We have a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions because there are no greenhouse gas emissions from this. The solar installation itself needs virtually no operation and maintenance on an ongoing basis, so that lowers our customers' cost for us to own and operate this facility. And then the environmental benefits include the vegetation, which will help our soil regenerate itself, reduces erosion, and on the periphery of the project, we'll have native plantings that include butterfly as well as pollinator habitat.
Wow, that's awesome. A lot of thought went into this, and when I think of all the different options for renewable energy, I'm really partial to this one because it's so quiet once it's done. You said it's very reliable. I mean, there's not much ongoing maintenance, and to me, it just really makes sense. And at the end of the day, why not take advantage of all that free energy being stored in the sun? Appreciate you coming on today's show and shedding some light on it.
Yeah, happy to do it.
The preceding program was sponsored by the Building Wisconsin Television Network.